Once a year, on December 21st, Ashley, Shaun, their friends, and the family of Brett Mann all come to the place where he died in his memory. They arrive and go down to the river where he disappeared back in 2003. They say a few words or play some music. Afterward, they have a barbecue and a couple of drinks, like he would have wanted. It's an emotional time, but a nice one. The survivors who were there when he died seldom speak about what happened that day and the horror that ensued. Brett's parents divorced and moved away after their son's death. On that fateful day, Brett was 22 years old. They left at 11:40 a.m. and made it to a spot southwest of the Kangaroo Flats, on the edge of Litchfield National Park, a regular racing spot for the three. They drove past the Tumbling Waters Holiday Park, speeding past the eucalypt trees, down the dusty roads, the gravel crunching beneath the tires. Shaun knew the land like the back of his hand, and he had been camping under the mangrove trees since he was 5 years old. The three were off spraying each other with mud on their bikes by the flat salt plains. At 4:30 p.m., they parked their bikes just up from the bank of the nearby river and started rinsing the mud off their clothes. The Northern Territory of Australia has a lot of monsoons and tropical cyclones that time of year, and little did they know just how badly the river was flooding and how strong the tide was coming in. The rain upstream bloated the Finnis River and turned the earth into red, sticky mud. The trio had no idea what they were in for when they walked into the water. Near a few stringy trees, Brett went out a bit further than everyone else when the current took his legs out from under him and washed him away. Ashley and Shaun went out to try and help him. They got in front of him and went with the flow, staying with arm's reach of each other. They started to look for a place to get out of the river and stayed in contact with each other. At the time, it seemed like everything would be okay. That's when Ashley spotted him. She yelled out, "Croc! Croc! I'm not joking, there's a croc! Head for a tree, get out of the water!" Shaun swam to the nearest tree and climbed up into the first fork. He helped Ashley up and looked for Brett. They called out to him and received no response. That was when the croc surfaced, and they saw Brett for the last time, hanging out of the croc's mouth. He was face down in the water, motionless. The 4 meters long, aggressive black croc stayed to look at them for a few minutes before going back under with Brett. 5 minutes later, he was back and circling the foot of the tree, bobbing up every so often, probably still hungry. The teens spent the night up in the tree. They kept each other awake so they wouldn't fall in. Shaun was just under Ashley, sitting in the second fork. At nightfall, Shaun started to work his way higher up and slipped. He fell into the cold, black water and scrambled back into the tree within seconds, narrowly escaping with his life. The darkness swallowed the tree whole and it started to get cold. Ashley moved down so they could huddle together to try to keep warm, occasionally letting each other know when the other was moving and checking in to keep each other awake. It was so dark they couldn't see their own hands in front of their faces. The small tree swayed in the wind, and they were pelted with icy rain all night. It was exhausting to hang on, but they never knew certain death awaited them if they let go for even a second. Their friends at home got worried around 7:30 p.m., the time the three said they would be back. So they went out looking for the three amigos. They found the abandoned car and empty trailer, but not the three of them. When dawn broke, the alarm was raised and search parties were deployed from the Marine and Fisheries Enforcement Station and the Territory Response Section. The rugged terrain and flooding made forward progress slow and tedious. But at 10 a.m., Shaun and Ashley heard Wayne Mitchell, a family friend, accompanied by police nearby. They couldn't see the two of them, but could hear them yelling in response. They explained what happened and warned them to avoid going into the water. Shaun still had eyes on the crocodile, and they continued to grip the tree with what little strength they had left. Word got back to HQ, and they knew the kids needed to be rescued fast. With the river 5 times its normal size and continuing to grow, they had to think of something. Swimming to shore was obviously never an option, and getting on a boat out to them would take far too long. They usually fly work crew to Tennessee oil rigs, but can also be deployed for rescues. Thus, they sent a 15-seat Super Pluma chopper. That way you knew the 2 of them would have enough room. It held a 6-man crew, including the captain, senior first officer, and paramedics. As they were flying in, the mist rolled in, and it started to lightly rain. They were hoping to pick them up, but the captain realized how flimsy their tree of safety really was when the wind from the blades of the helicopters sent the top branch of the tree flying into the water. They were afraid the 2 of them might get blown into the water, or that the helicopter would finish the tree off, so they aborted that approach. There was a life raft on board, so McPhee, the captain, and a paramedic named Ellis would be sent out onto a tiny island in the middle of the river to inflate the raft, so they could paddle to the 2 survivors. Unfortunately, when McPhee realized there weren't any oars, it was too late. He had to improvise and use some rubber diving flippers instead. Unfortunately, the current wasn't in their favor, so the air crew used the wind from the copper to blow them in the right direction. The men ended up using vegetation to pull themselves along, with the downdraft threatening to overturn their tiny raft. Really nothing but a thin piece of rubber standing between them and a hungry croc, still out there in the water. They couldn't think about that right now and stayed focused on finally getting to the 2 in the tree. When they arrived, it took some coaxing to get the victims to jump in the raft after the night they had had, but after that, they were on their way back. McPhee believes the noise of the copter scared the croc off, but you could still cut the tension with a knife. No one said anything on the way back, and when they made it to dry land, they were winched into the helicopter and flown to safety. It was 3 p.m. when they were back in Darwin and taken to the hospital. They were both physically fine. Searchers went out daily for a while after that, even searching on Christmas trying to find Brett's body. Due to Cyclone Debbie and the rain it caused, the flooded river rose by 2 more meters. Trees were being torn apart and floating debris was swept out to sea. It was sometimes too dangerous to search for his body in a boat, but helicopters flew over the river daily. When the weather passed, the ground team commenced searches, and about a week afterward, a parks ranger shot a 3.8-meter-long croc near the site Brett disappeared. Its body was never recovered, but it was presumed dead and was assumed to be the killer, even though no one can be certain. Some involved still hold on to some hope that they will find something left of him, so they can all get some closure, but there hasn't been any luck so far. The survivors will likely never fully recover from what happened that day, but they are still moving forward. Last we checked, Shaun and Ashley still live in the area. Shaun works at the family business cleaning swimming pools, and he still tells customers to remove any blow-up crocodile toys from the pool area before he arrives. Ashley is still deeply affected by the trauma. McPhee and Ellis were awarded for their bravery during the rescue, and the tragedies inspired 2 movies, Blackwater and Rogue. Furthermore, it caused people to start talking about culling the crocodiles due to the danger they pose to people. Most crocodile attacks happen due to people ignoring no swimming rules, but this attack was pure bad luck. They were acting reasonably and had never seen a crocodile in the area in all their years camping and racing by the river. Sometimes, tragedy strikes in such a way that it wouldn't be reasonable for people to have done anything differently. Maybe someday we'll find something of his and everyone can get some closure.